Good morning. I hope everybody's doing all right this morning. We're back here in the bunker again, and Jeremiah and I are going to go over wiring a 2S meter up. Before we get started, had a pretty privileged but sobering meeting with somebody this morning, and sometimes we, as I said, are privileged enough to pray with someone who they're not doing so well health-wise, and they're kind of looking some things in the face. And anyway, so the thing that's so crazy about it as Christians, isn't it, that we still, it tells us in the Bible, we should welcome tribulations in that. It's so that we can show people how we handle them. And there's the joy and the knowing that we're going to end up in heaven, being up there with Jesus. So the part of that keeps a smile on our face, even in the midst of tribulations and terrible things. And people say, well, why aren't you more upset about it? Why aren't you scared or worried? And that's why. So I'm going to pray real quick, and then we're going to get started, all right? Father, thank you so much for the privilege this morning to pray with a brother of mine. And Father, also just thank you so much for the gift of grace through tribulation and faith that you've given us, faith in things we can't see. And that faith makes us different. And that's why we're called aliens and ambassadors on this planet, because we are going to be different because we put our faith in you, Father. We don't put our faith in money or power, but we put our faith in the one true God. So, Father, thank you so much for that privilege and that opportunity to show that faith that we have in others, and they can see the difference in us. And, Father, in the midst of all these times, it's even more important that we are a light and we show who we put our faith in, which is you. So thank you for this day. Thank you for this chance for us to do better at our jobs and learn something. And more importantly, thank you so much for what your Son did, so I can pray right now. So it's all of these things I say and ask according to the will of the one who paid it all, my brother, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank y'all. All right, so we're wiring up a 2S meter this morning. It's going to be Jeremiah, Swann, and I. And it's part of the Still Can't Get Over Series 10. It still blows my mind because, it took 4 for one series. So it's a lot of webinars. But I got to tell you, we just, even today, we received some more feedback from some folks that we just really appreciate it. Thanks for letting us know that this is helpful to you guys, okay? Because Jarrett and Chris do a lot of work on it. All right, so today we're going to do the 2S meter socket. We're still open for suggestions. We're working on one I told you about, which is going to be an advanced meter school. And this advanced one is going to go into more some different ways of using the equipment to test with, capabilities of the equipment we don't normally talk about. So if you've got any suggestions on that or ideas or something you've used the equipment out of the box and used to troubleshoot with, please send that in to us because we will incorporate that in that one that we're looking at. But now we're still open for suggestions, so please send us ideas that you have for schools, all right? Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move over here to we got a couple of things we want to talk about that Jeremiah and I were thinking about from the last session. You think about things afterwards. And so Jeremiah's going to go over that, and then we're going to move into the 2S socket, okay?
So we had a question on the last session, and me and John and Ray have discussed about it, having the return run back from each CT. And we got into some deep discussion, actually called a customer and asked them about it. And what we could come up with between us was the reason why you would do that is so that you could isolate that one CT in case you had a problem, had to troubleshoot. You wouldn't have to open up everything. So I think that would be the only advantage we come up with bringing in your wires. When I say that, having each one neutral brought back. I call it a neutral return to your CTs. We discussed that. I also wanted to talk about a few other things. When you go to set a meter or pull a meter for a 9S, I know everybody probably knows, but always open up all your switches just for a safety thing. Have all your switches open up before you even offer to pull that, set it, or anything, because that makes this up here dead. You're isolated. You don't have no voltage, no current right here when you go to pull or set that. You do not want to break a load here. You'd rather break it down here at your switches.
Absolutely.
Always remember, though, when you do have these switches open, these right here are your voltages, and they are hot. So you don't want to brush into them. So I did want to talk about that. We wanted to talk about some safety stuff, and we'll do that when we do the 2S meter. I'm big on safety. I used to always say when working out in the field, Y'all may not like me, may not think I'm beautiful, but my wife and kids do, and I don't want to give them a reason not to. So I'd like to go home just as I come to work, the same condition. Don't want to make that phone call to no one's family member or loved one saying that they've been in an accident. So that's what we're here for. We want to help out. John, are there anything else you can think of here on this?
I really think that was important what you said here, and that even comes into effect when you're doing testing, and we talk about this all the time. When you open these up, like when you're doing testing in a substation, and you're going to apply the voltage, you come in here to apply the voltage because the top up here is where you're going to apply the voltage with a piece of test equipment to go ahead and apply potential to that meter, still be able to test it, but you're still hot down here on the bottom side, and that is very, very important. So when you break it right here so you don't get any back feeds, so you'll break it right here. Remember, you're still hot down here on this back side. So you're going to come in here with your alligator clips, and when you connect them there, then that would apply the potential over to your meter right here. But on the bottom side, you're still hot. That's the break that you're making there.
Yeah, a lot of customers still don't use PTs, or voltage transformer steps down. So you could add potentially 277, 480 right here at your switches.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to watch that. And when you're checking your voltage, you also want to make sure your nameplate of that meter matches up with your voltage. You don't want to set a 12208 meter in a 277, 480 volt socket.
That's right.
I don't think it's going to be a pretty result.
No, a lot of them are ranging now 120 to 480, but that's not always the case. And that is, and you guys know this as well as anyone, any of the field folks out there, never assume anything. Because if you make assumptions, then that causes problems. So don't just assume that the meter can handle the voltage. Check that meter, because it may be an older style meter. For some reason, you didn't get them. Now, of course, most of them are 120, 480. But if you didn't have one of those and you tried to put it in the wrong service, you could have a serious problem.
Yep. Have a rapid disassembly, and you cannot outrun it once it
That's
blows
right.
up.
That's right.
So we have a 2S meter socket. Most cases, if it's an overhead service, electrician wires the top side, bottom side. We come up, all we do is energize it, make a meter in it. The underground services, those a little different. A lot of times power company makes up the underground top side of the service. One thing important, always connect the neutral first before you connect anything. So you'd want to take it, and you do see it's white, so it is a different color. Put it in the center lug. We'll tighten it down good. And no, it's probably not torqued to spec with this little Allen wrench. It's not coming out. Then you got one of your hot legs. You'll take one, put it to this side. Tighten it. And the other one, you see I have marked it with red tape. Put it in the other side. We'll tighten it down. So now once you've done that right under, of course you're going to make it hot on the top side. But you always want to take, and we'll go back to safety. I know we don't have voltage hooked up to this one, but I do want to go through the steps that you would actually go through to check to make sure. So you'll have your voltmeter. Check phase to phase. You should have 240 volts. 120, A to neutral. Then you'll go from B, 120. Another thing to check up, if it had the bottom side feed on it already, check, make sure you ain't got no back feed. Make sure they ain't got a generator. Make sure they ain't plugged into their neighbor's house, new construction. We all get in a hurry on a Friday afternoon and think, man, I got this one work order I got to get in. Let me go out here and throw that meter in. What happens if that meter's got a generator hooked to it? Back feed. You're not going to get phase to phase. That meter's going to come back out. So check. Make sure they ain't hooked up to nothing. Another thing that you need to do, make sure it ain't shorted out. Check hook here, hook there. Make sure your alligator clips, the wire's got a fusible link in it. Check, make sure you don't have voltage. Make sure it don't ohm out. You don't want in a scenario like this right here, say you don't have a breaker that you can get a hold of. You don't want that to come back out. Try to open that breaker. Put that in. Because if you got, say you got the service here and it runs into the house, the electricians come in, then the siding peoples come in, they've put siding up, drove a nail through that service. And you didn't check it and you're getting ready to short that out. As soon as you put that meter in there, that meter's coming back out of that socket just as quick as you put it in, and you're not able to dodge that fireball. We don't want no one hurt. So take the time to do that checks, make sure everything is safe. We do, they make a book. It's the Pocket Guide to Watt Hour Meters. And if you go through it, it actually shows you single phase, three phase, what to check for, how to check it. It's in the back of the book. I recommend everybody that's doing it to go through it, look at it, and just
Your
check
jumper
it.
right there, right?
Yeah, it shows the jumper. I think it's on page 84. I don't have my glasses on.
Yep.
Yeah, it shows the jumper, shows the fuse in it. I don't know if you can see that, Jared. But it tells you installation tips, socket checks, what to check for. It goes through single phase and 120 service. Then it goes through a single phase 3-wire, which would be a regular house service. It shows the jumper, where to put it at, how to check it, when not to set the meter, when to set it. We want you to be safe. It actually shows it 3-wire network, 3-phase, delta. So it got them all covered. I know that there's some companies out there that make the little socket thing that you put in. It'll actually light up. It's got fuses in it. It'll tell you whether or not it's a fault or not. I highly recommend it to go through some steps to check them to make sure for safety purposes.
Absolutely.
So that, I know that a 2S is short and sweet.
That's right. So there's we knew this was going to be a short and sweet one with the 2S, and we did want to cover a couple things from last time. You know, it always is. Later on, like I said, you think about some things you wish you'd mentioned. So we wanted to mention some of the things from the 9S from Tuesday. But as I said, if you got any suggestions, send them in to us. I think our next one's going to be, like I said, a more advanced testing class. It may take more than one because we're going to do some oddball stuff, and we've got some great examples from customers so far. So we're going to show how you can make some different connections, use the test equipment in different ways that they used, that the customers, and we talked it through, and they used it, and they were able to find the problems, but it isn't a normal way you would use the equipment. So for the more advanced techs, it would be great. For some other folks around there that would just want to know in the back of their minds, we can always use the equipment in that way to test for other things. So we're going to try and do that one. We're still looking for suggestions. If you have anything you'd like to see, please holler at us. And if you'd like to set up your own specific training on a certain thing, please holler at us again, because we'll set up your own private webinar or go-to meeting. Jared will set it all up, a go-to if you want to converse back and forth, just a webinar if you just want to watch. But we normally like to do the go-tos because you can actually ask live questions of us. So you can say, hey, can you show me that? And we can do it right then. So please take advantage of all that. And most importantly, be safe out there right now. Remember, we've got the next one coming up next Tuesday from the COVID. Anyway, we do appreciate it, folks. So seriously, and thank you so much for the comments that you're giving us and the support you give us out there. It means a lot to us, and it lets us know that y'all are getting something out of it. So be safe out there, and God bless. All right.